Can you hear me okay, Brad? Looks like you're muted.
Here we go.
Brad, you got me?
Yes, sir.
Hey,
I got you.
how are you?
I'm doing great. How are you doing?
I'm doing well, thank you. It's I don't know if I don't know if the rain traveled from South Carolina, but we've been getting a lot of it recently.
Yeah, we're getting pounded right now as we speak.
Yeah.
Uh,
Well,
yeah,
hopefully the internet doesn't go out again on you. So
yeah.
all good there. But well, we'll go ahead and dive into it, Brad. I know this is your first time having you on one of these webinars, and again, I appreciate you joining in. And one of the things that we've been hosting these webinars since September of last year. One of the things that we do for our audience is just host a little trivia quiz before we get started. So I'm going to share a screen, and we'll go through that trivia question. It's usually based around the topic the week before. So I'm going to go ahead and share a screen, and then we'll dive into the presentation afterward. So today's trivia question is, which of the following modules does EPICompliance cover in their tailored compliance solutions? Now, for some of you, this may be a very big softball question, but for those of you that might be joining in for the first time, please make a educated guess. Your choices are the following: A, OSHA for healthcare; B, HIPAA privacy and HIPAA security; C, ACA OIG Medicare waste, fraud, and abuse; and D, all the above. So you guys go ahead, put your answers in chat. We'll give it about 30 seconds. Jose, don't be shy. Susan, don't be shy. Susan with the D. Ooh, Brad. Brad's got a D too. All right, here we go. Jose, we're waiting on you. Jose says D. All righty. Well, hey, congratulations, everyone. We why break consensus? Be quiet, Jose. Brad, just so you're aware, Jose is usually one of my co-hosts on these. He's taking a break today, and he's
Okay.
gonna be a participant. But the answer is, in fact, D, all the above. Our EPI compliance solutions do cover these four areas: OSHA for healthcare, HIPAA privacy, HIPAA security, and Medicare waste, fraud, and abuse. General consensus: if you're working in the healthcare industry, especially if you're dealing with Medicare, et cetera, these are four important areas that you need to comply with. Like I said, our solutions are tailored to cover all of these. So appreciate you guys participating, and we'll sort of dive in and get started with the presentation. Let me go ahead and pull that up. And Brad, just to confirm, you can see screen. Oh, we need to
Yes, sir.
get back to the start. There we go. So again, welcome everyone. Thank you for joining for today's session. Today's topic, we're going to be talking about EPICompliance Customer Insights and best practice for secure and data disposal. I'm Ray Walters, and I will be your host for today's session. I want to sort of dive right into this subject. As you guys may know, data protection regulations like HIPAA require companies to properly dispose sensitive information to prevent data breaches. However, maintaining compliance while securely destroying data does have its challenges. That's why I'm excited to welcome our guest expert today, Mr. Brad Ward, who is the Vice President of Shredaway and an exclusive partner of EPICompliance. Shredaway is a leading provider of secure shredding, e-waste destruction, and compliant data disposal services. Brad, I'm happy to have you on today. 20 years of experience in this industry, and you're going to be here to answer the questions that our audience may have. I've also taken the liberty to put a couple interview questions together for you as well to answer, and looking forward to this presentation. And Brad, if you could just give us a brief background of your experience in the industry, and also a brief background of Shredaway Services.
Sure. Shredaway is a local company, started 20 years ago. My brother and I started the company. I was in the uniform business with a company called Cintas, and David was with UPS. We both were in management, and actually through a customer, I discovered the document destruction industry, and that's one thing led to another, and uh, we always wanted to be entrepreneurs. And one day we bit the bullet and left our corporate jobs and started Shredaway. And that's in a quick 30-second overview. That's how it all came about. But we've seen the industry change dramatically over 20 years. And as they always say, the only consistent thing in life is change. And
That's
I
true.
think it will continue to change.
It's
So,
very true, and and obviously, from my understanding, you guys have started essentially with the shredding services and sort of add additional services on, as you know, obviously as the change in industry. Correct?
yes, yes. We originally started with document shredding, then moved into the e-waste, then moved into the document storage, and then the business eventually evolved into the regulated medical waste.
That's awesome to hear. And we appreciate your partnership as well. I think we've been together now for, are we approaching 2 years, or are we at the two
Two
year mark?
years.
Yeah.
I think we just are at the 2 year mark now.
No, it's been a pleasure, and it's also it's been a pleasure dealing with Jess as well. She's been absolutely awesome, and kudos to her, and everything that she does, and everything that I've dealt with her with has just been awesome. So appreciate that, and we'll sort of dive into the questions that, or actually, well, we sort of talked about this, but actually, I was wondering real quick, Brad, if you can. Wasn't really familiar with and this is, I found this on your website, the NAID AA certified. What can you sort of give the audience a little bit of an overview of that certification that you guys have for the secure data destruction?
NAID is a independent organization that can certify your business.
Hmm.
There's actually a couple of companies out there now that can do that. They were probably the pioneers as far as forming a certification or creating an industry standard, so to speak. I guess would be the best way to describe it. And it's more or less setting your business up to make sure you're following all the rules and doing all the right things as far as you know uh, are you issuing certificate of destruction? Are you doing a 50 state background check on your employees? Um, drug screening, IDs, just a lot of the basics. They just sort of pulled it all together.
Gotcha.
There's several competitors to them out. Um, you know, uh, those are some things that are very important. Um, the one thing I would probably say, as we get into talking about how the industry has changed,
Yeah.
and I don't want to get ahead of your questions here, so
No,
don't
no
stop me.
worries.
But when we got in this business, I would say 80%, maybe even 90% of the companies that were providing document shredding service were off-site. On-site shredding was not a popular thing. There was not even really a selection of shred trucks. There was maybe 3 manufacturers in the U.S.
Okay.
There was no such thing as a used shred truck. They didn't even exist yet, and the trucks were extremely expensive. Um, we're coming in as a local player. There was a large company called Shred First, which
Hmm.
has since dissolved and been acquired many times over. And we were trying to establish a uniqueness, and that uniqueness for us was becoming an on-site shredding provider. And so we completely steered away from off-site shredding and went with the mobile fleet of shred trucks. And
That is awesome.
the as history goes, one turns to two, two turns to four, four turns to eight. We're well over a dozen by
we're
now.
we're
So
growing. That and
yeah,
that's obviously a sign that you're doing something right. So
yeah.
interesting. So I don't know if you ever heard any horror stories, but I tell you, I've heard stories of those offsite shreddings where you have a truck that comes out, picks up your data. I've heard stories of healthcare records getting stolen out of these trucks, or God forbid, truck gets into an accident and records are going all over the place. Just so many nightmare stories, and I feel like the doing things on site has to be the way to go, and I would say the most HIPAA compliant process, and it can avoid those sort of nightmares. Not to say that happens often, but I've heard it before. It's crazy. I don't know if you had anything similar.
Oh yeah, it really comes down to a operational standpoint. You want to your first goal is to handle the paper in the most secure manner
Sure.
for the customer. But then you start getting into the side of being um, smart as far as how many times you're handling that document, how is it affecting security? Because your ultimate goal is to get that document destroyed, and that's one thing
Absolutely.
that we didn't realize getting into the on-site business is you really don't handle the documents anymore. You're collecting that secure locked, and I'm stressing secure locked. I hope
Hmm.
I said that loud enough. Shred bin from your customer. You're transporting it to the side of your truck. So you're maintaining your line of security from, let's say, from the bank
Hmm.
until you get to the side of the truck.
Hmm.
From that point, the truck takes over, it lifts it up. Um, the container is now emptied into the hammer mill, shredder, grinder, whatever format of truck you're using, and then it's destroyed right there. And we can get into some other things as far as the different types of mobile equipment and how they're effective, how they're not effective, et cetera.
Sure. No,
But
I'm certainly interested.
that's
It sounds like you got a
yeah.
fleet. You have a fleet, but there's some of those trucks have different uses, different specialties.
Well, for us, and I don't want to offend anybody on the call, but for us, when we got into the business, our first action was try to distinguish ourselves as an on-site shredding company. But then we started competing against some of the giants, such as the Iron Mountains and the back then Shred-it wasn't like they are now, but Iron Mountains, Recall. There's some other companies that's fallen by the wayside. And so now you're like, okay, well, how can we still be different? We're a local company. We can provide great customer service. We can really give you that local presence that you actually know who's handling your documents. You're seeing the same driver in here every week, et cetera. But how else can we, become unique? And we started researching the different types of trucks that were out there.
Hmm.
Um, we landed on a type of truck called Ultra Shred, which uses a hammer mill. And to break this down in probably the simplest form, your trucks are going to be either a single shaft shredding or grinding
Hmm.
process or a dual shaft. A dual shaft is similar like what's in your office in a like an office shredder. It's
Sure.
two opposing shafts, blades going at one time. So the paper essentially gets one pass through. Does that constitute under federal guidelines shredding? Yes. Is that the most secure and effective? Probably not. So we went to the single shaft method, which actually has a security screen that regulates the particle size. So we really incorporate that into our sales literature and our sales process. And I can remember a number of sales proposals, sales calls that we were on. And when we're in the final stage,
Hmm.
the manager would actually call the three companies that they were taking bids from and say, okay, we want you to shred these documents right here in front of us. So we would do that. And then they said, okay, now open the back
Interesting.
doors. We want to see it. And you'd be surprised how many competitors would say, oh, well, we can't do that.
Wow.
And they would say, okay, well, if you completely destroyed it as you have just now guaranteed to me, why can't you open the doors and show me what's the remains? And they'd say, well, we have other stuff in here that doesn't belong to you. And I would say, okay, well,
Wow.
but if it's completely destroyed, that should not be an issue.
Exactly.
So so that became a big selling point to us. We really
That's
pushed
huge.
the particle size,
Yeah.
and we would actually give them bags of like shredded paper to show. And under the HIPAA guidelines, it essentially says that the documents have to be destroyed beyond recognition where they can't be read, or they have to be destroyed to the point that they can't be put back together. So if you're using the type of equipment that destroys in this manner, you meet all qualifications without doubt, and you're not trying to hide anything.
And I'm sure your leads that you're presenting a live demo to of the shredding, that's the selling point right there. They're sold after you show them that, because there's nothing left. But that's interesting. I didn't know I didn't know some practices will actually
Yeah.
inquire to see that type of stuff. That's it makes sense. Show me how it works.
And then as yeah, and then as we started getting into it, it opened up a whole new level of type of customers to go for. So we started going into
Sure.
like government jobs, and they really, you know, get precise on particle size. You have to meet the DOD standard.
Okay.
So there's actually, like with UltraShred, they actually manufactured a truck that has the DOD stamp of approval. It actually has a badge on the side of the truck that this truck, and there's only a handful of them out there that can meet that. And it even produces a much smaller particle size. From the, and I'm talking to all shredding companies here from that standpoint. That was great because your cost of destruction goes up, on your side, but you can also charge more because you're given a more in depth, level of security that you're now offering.
Interesting stuff. And Brad, Jose has a question he threw in chat. He
Yeah.
has a couple actually. He asked, would you recommend one-time deals with a firm like yours, or periodic, like monthly or quarterly?
Your goal is to get as much reoccurring revenue as possible, but the one-time deals don't turn away from those, because the one-time cleanouts purges can be very large. We did a shred last week for one customer. We've never done any shred for them in the past, and it wound up being close to 300 and something boxes. So it was a very large clean out, and that's
Wow.
that's a good amount of revenue. So don't turn your back or shy away from those. And a lot of those one-time cleanouts turn into regular customers because they typically have stored it up for so long, and then every 3 to 5 years they decide to get it down out of the attic or out of the mezzanine or out of the back warehouse wherever they're storing it, and then they call you out there to destroy it. But then you get the opportunity to say, well, let me just take care of this on a regular basis. Let's put some shred bins in here, and now you've created a regular, reoccurring, consistent
Right.
frequency of a customer.
His second question was, obviously you're located in South Carolina, but what geographic area does your company serve? Do you serve out of state, or I guess
Yes,
how far your
we do,
arms
sir.
arms go?
We currently service South Carolina, North Carolina, and Georgia. And then if you research the name Shredaway, there's a whole bunch of Shredaways out there. Most of those are new startup companies who have bought our used shred trucks over the years. I know that sounds funny, but that's the truth. And as some of
Hey,
these guys have started up a company, they've like, hey, can we use your name? We're like, absolutely. So there's Shredaway in Oklahoma, Shredaway in Tennessee, Shredaway in Georgia, Shredaway in Florida. All those are guys that started a shredding business and came and got some training and help from us, and end up buying some of our used equipment as we continually upgrade.
no, that's great. Um, I don't know why, but it like reminds me of the Navy for some reason. Because a ship, right? A Navy ship they'll decommission the ship, and then they'll sell it to another country,
Third world
Australia.
countries.
Or
Yeah,
it's kind of the same perspective in a sense.
sure. Sure.
But well, hey, no, I appreciate that, and this was sort of some interview questions I put together. I think one and two we've kind of answered thus far. But as far as you know, and in terms of the chain of custody, the process from pickup to final destruction, I think you kind of explained this one as well, but from a compliance standpoint, obviously the process that you had mentioned where you're just showing up with the truck, the mitigating that compliance risk and how much risk are you mitigating versus the offsite?
It's the on-site is tremendous as far as cutting out your liability, because usually you only have one person who is handling those documents. So you're one
Right.
of your employees. He is the person who goes in, and I referenced the bank. So let's just stay with the bank, for example.
Sure.
He's the one who walks into that branch. He may have to sign in or log in. He may have to acquire some type of ID badge to move freely throughout the bank, to go behind certain doors. And at that point in time, he is collecting his containers. Um, he is the only one that handles those containers. We have master keys,
Hmm.
but we do use multiple sets of locks so that one key does not fit all our bins. Um, and we're very cautious about giving those keys out, even to the customers. Usually, we only give them to the person who is signing the contract or who is designated as the contract administrator. And from that point there, they can determine who they want to have the key. But in a general rule of thumb, when a customer comes up and says, "I need a new key," that doesn't happen. We're not giving out a key. But again, we collect the bins. That
Hmm.
one driver is the only one who has touched that bin. He rolls that bin to the truck. With your financial institutions, um, which fall heavily under the FACTA, federal guidelines, they
Sure.
like to see a line of sight. So for a lot of the banks, we actually park in view of the teller window.
Okay.
So a teller will be watching us the whole time. So they'll see us as we walk around through the bank. In some cases, they'll actually send somebody with you and escort you around as you collect the bins. They may even escort you outside and watch you as you run the bins up the side of the truck. And that is their own internal requirement or protocol that they've established. And it's different for every bank, obviously. But from going back to your original comment, about eliminating a compliance risk, it's one person's handled it.
Hmm.
One person signs the certificate of destruction at the end of the shredding. Um, the the bin is returned to its proper place in a locked status. The customer signs off on everything, and before that truck pulls away, everything has been completely destroyed.
Oh, that's awesome. Sort of piggyback off that question. I know, you guys started off with the data shredding and sort of added more tentacles, so to speak, to your services. And as far as electronic waste and IT asset disposal, which is obviously another key, a key area of risk for practices and other businesses. In those types of situations where maybe you're destroying hard drives or mobile devices, what's the shred away process for that? Um,
We actually use, we've got two different machines, and
mhm.
I'm trying to think of the name of the other one. One of them is called a hard drive destroyer, and it's actually a dual shaft grinder. It's
Okay.
got hardened teeth, and it is set up to actually grind the hard drive. This is not a mobile application. There are some mobile applications out there.
Sure.
I would caution you to be careful of a mobile application. You can't really mix hard drives and paper. That's a fire hazard. So if you're running, our trucks, we run ultra shreds, we run Beco plans,
Hmm.
we've ran some shred fast in years past. Um, all those trucks are capable of shredding hard drives, but you can't shred them at the same time. It's either dedicated to shredding hard drives and e-waste, or it's paper. From a safety standpoint, from a wear and tear on equipment and a fire standpoint, we do 99% of our shredding offsite at our plant-based equipment, which is a hard drive destroyer, and it essentially grinds. It probably grinds a hard drive. The pieces are no bigger than the size of a quarter when it's finished. So it just shears it into multiple pieces. There's some mobile applications out there that are a punch method. They like punch a hole through the hard drive. Um, I'm not an IT expert, but I've been told by many IT people to stay away from that. That is can be not completely destroyed at times. In other words, data can still be pulled off that unit if if the right person got a hold of it.
No, I was gonna say I hear these stories all the time where companies will, they'll lease a printer or a copier, a fax machine, and they don't take care of that hard drive, and which is a huge HIPAA violation. And so that's good information as far as taking care of hard drives, disposing of them, and all that. So no, I appreciate that, Jose. Jose's got another question for you.
Yes, sir.
He said now it's time for a hard question. so so get ready. He
Okay.
said there's obviously a price difference between on-site versus off-site. Obviously, off-site increases your liability as a business associate. Do you find being a business associate more complex to deal with for the healthcare industry?
Yes and no. I can answer that both ways, and I can play both sides of the fence. Um, most most of our and we service some large hospital chains, but 90% of our hospitals are wanting us to be on site. And Jose, one thing to remember, when you handle stuff off site, you got to really consider how many times your employees, and I'm not talking from just a security standpoint, I'm talking from a labor standpoint. How many times are you handling those boxes before you finally destroy them? You're loading them on a dolly or some type of item to get them out of that hospital or that practice. You're taking them to a box truck, some type of truck. You're unloading them there, loading them in the truck. Then you get them back to the warehouse. You got to handle them again. So those boxes have been handled 3 or 4 times before they finally make it to the destruction process, which is feeding the paper into a shredder, grinder, etc. So from a labor standpoint and an overall cost, I still think you come out better on the on-site. It's just getting past that initial investment of buying that shred truck.
Yeah, chain of custody is absolutely key.
Yeah.
100%.
I mean, and that's the thing and when you're selling against that, I'm constantly saying, okay, well, who signed the certificate of destruction when they picked up those boxes? And do you know that John Smith actually is the one that loaded and unloaded that truck? And did John actually feed them into the shredder, or did that go to a second shift plant employee basis? Were they even destroyed on the same day? I mean, you can really tear that apart in so many ways.
Yeah.
And there's just such a peace of mind. It's like, here, you can watch it be done. These trucks are extremely fast. They shred at a rate of 5,000 pounds an hour. Um,
Man,
we'll be done.
I'd like to see a big haul.
Yeah. Uh,
You should
and
you should make
go
some
ahead.
YouTube videos for your marketing if you
Yeah,
haven't already.
we've got a few videos out there.
That's great. Jose, I hope that answered all your questions. I had one more for you, Brad. As far as um, you know, other companies that you've helped overcome these challenges as far as shredding, can you share any examples, maybe recently, of some companies that you recently assisted in sort of overcoming these challenges and um, helping them essentially get their disposal in check?
Most of I think there's several things to consider. Word of mouth and you know your existing customers can help you grow your business tremendously. I would probably say a large percentage of our growth has come from just recommendations from other customers. We use the referral letters and referral list extensively,
Hmm.
and that's one thing customers, they've had 3 different sales reps from 3 different shredding companies come in and talk to them. But when you can say, hey, I've been in business for this long, I'm a local company, my employees live here, these dollars stay here. And, I can sit here and tell you all about how great my company is and all this, but instead of taking my word, here's 5 reference letters from local companies in your area. Please feel free to give any of them a call and ask them about their experience. All 5 of these
I like
companies
that.
have been customer providers for many years. Or you can take it one more step, give them a list of like 25 customers with contact names and phone numbers and say, and just say you don't think I went and picked my 5 best friends out there, call any of these 25. And usually that slams the door. They're ready to do business.
I love that. And if not, then you just give them a live demo.
Yeah. Let's go look at the shred truck. I'll show you how it works. And there's so many people that they're just amazed by that. They think that's just the greatest thing.
No, that's awesome. That's awesome. Jose, looks like you got another one in here. Let's see. Is there any prep that needs to be done for the files? Many moons ago, I was a high schooler that had a summer job prepping the files. We had a separate imaging from regular paper, destapling.
No, the trucks have improved so much over the years. They will handle almost anything you throw at them. Paper clips, staples, even binding clips have
Mm.
no phase on the truck. Even a 3-ring notebook will not even shut these trucks down. The biggest threat you're going to face is batteries. So making sure you have no electronics mixed with the paper, but more importantly, batteries. For some reason, like when you're in a healthcare facility, they use batteries for so many different types of equipment. And I have no idea what attracts someone to look at a shred bin and thinks
Oh,
because it has a slit on the top that slit is the perfect size to drop a battery into. But anyway,
oh
it
boy.
happens.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Good advice. Good advice. I would say the last and final question for you, Brad. What advice would you give other companies for selecting a qualified, compliant shredding vendor as a partner?
Um, do your research, check their references, and you know, physically ask us to see the equipment, ask for a demonstration of how the process works. If you're a customer and you're very experienced in those areas, and you've seen shred trucks and you understand that, uh, then just zero in on their reputation as far as their background, what training do they have each year, how often they update it, what are some of the credentials they use for selecting their employees, such as do they do a 50-state background check? Are they bonded? Or, one of the most important things is do they carry professional liability? I hope everybody on the call understands what professional liability does, but that's the only insurance that will protect the customer.
No, good to know. And I would even add to business associate agreements as well. Yeah, I mean, you'd be surprised. There's companies out there that shredding companies out there that might not even know what a business associate is and the importance. And obviously, you being
Well,
an EPI compliance partner, you're well aware of the HIPAA regulations, and I would only imagine if a practice was wanting to have a business associate agreement in place, you wouldn't think twice.
yeah, it's really 2 agreements. You've got to have your contract that protects you as the shredding company that's establishing, the rules and regulation or the agreed upon price or the frequency or the number of containers, et cetera. But then the business associate agreement, especially in the HIPAA guidelines, protects them as the customer from their internal audit.
No, absolutely. Well, hey, Brad, I really appreciate this insight. I learned some new stuff today as well, and I'm gonna have to find you on the YouTube or wherever you. Just for some, I've never seen these types of trucks, and I'm very I'm very intrigued right now, and want to see
So
how it works.
we've got the newest trucks we're using are Beko plans. So
Yeah.
I'll throw that out to them. They're great, great equipment. I think they advertised that their truck would even shred a bowling ball, and
Oh
it
man.
probably, it probably will. I mean, it's amazing. it is just a it is just so hands free. It is so clean. The maintenance on the truck, we started, like I said earlier, with a company called Ultra Shred, and they were phenomenal trucks. They were great trucks. They were more maintenance. They created more dust. There was some positive and some negatives, but the speed at which they operated
Mm,
was incredible. So I can't say anything negative about either one. I love both the trucks, and we still have many of them in operation. But it's just they're phenomenal. They just it's you don't really you get so used to it and you become numb to it what these trucks are doing.
yeah,
And I a few weeks ago we went out. We had 1,000 boxes to shred,
sure.
and it, I took 3 drivers and 3 trucks, and I went as just a helper, just trying to help them load the paper and I think we started that morning, and before 1 o'clock, we had destroyed 1,000 boxes.
Man, that is just cool
So
stuff.
yeah, and it's just you don't you
Yeah,
step back and you realize how much paper, how many tons you just cycle through,
right.
and it is amazing how hard these trucks work.
Technology too, and like you said, it sounds like when you're ready to retire something, and you're going with the whatever the best of the best is out there.
Yeah.
Technology is just crazy, and I wouldn't imagine in this industry.
Somebody said, "What happens to the paper when we finish? It all gets recycled. The rule of thumb is it takes 13 trees to equal 1 ton of shredded paper. So,
Wow.
depending on the market you're in, like when I'm in North Carolina, I think they're more concerned with the amount of recycling that we do in a month or year than they are the actual security measures. Every area is different, every environment's different, but you're recycling a tremendous amount of volume in a given year, and these trucks do it all for you. And so,
Nah, that's awesome stuff.
and then if you ever go online and you find any videos of us, we do a shred-a-thon for the community. It's free to the public. We do it 4 times a year.
That's awesome.
We set up about 5 trucks. We have the local news station there. We have police helping direct traffic. We will fill up each truck twice a day in the period of time that we're there shredding. We go through many tons of paper. But they always get me on TV and they always ask me online, can you tell me what happens to this paper? What does it become? So that's the big laugh. And it's usually napkins, paper towels, that kind of stuff, but it does also become toilet paper.
What
So you can
what local channel? I'll do some research.
uh, it's called WSPA News Channel 7, and I think we've been doing those shred events for at least a dozen years. So there's multiple videos live at the shred event, and they always do like a little 30-second clip and come over and talk to us and tell me what they should be bringing. And then they always like, so Brad, tell me when all this is shredded, what happens to it? It's recycled. And they're like, okay, so but what happens to it then? And they know the answer. They're just wanting to
It's watching
see
the same.
kids on TV. And I named 10 things that paper turns into, and the
Yeah.
guy Jack Roper will say, and it's what? And I'll say toilet paper. And then he'll close and say, that's right. Today's tax return or yesterday's tax returns will be tomorrow's toilet paper. Bring it on.
I love that. I'm gonna have to find that. I don't think I'll have a problem finding it. Hopefully, they don't have you listed as the toilet paper man or something.
Yeah. Yeah.
But Brad, I appreciate your time, and you know what, maybe we can dive in a little further on another maybe a subtopic of this in the near future. I think this was really beneficial to our audience, and like I said, I learned something new as well. And I put Brad's information here on this slide if you guys would like to get a hold of him. That Brad, it is your direct extension, correct?
Yeah.
Found it on your website, so um, just wanted to
Give
make
me a
sure.
call, send me an email, and we'll be glad to help out.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And um, Guys, we'll open up just for a short FAQ. I want to say we've probably already answered everybody's questions, but if you guys have anything else, please go ahead and put it in chat. We'll leave it open here for another 30 seconds. Jose, no more hard questions. Jose did say the human element is impressive. I think he was referring to that battery. My favorite saying to that is just, yeah, common sense is a superpower these days.
Yeah, we've actually gone so far as to put stickers on our labels on our
Yeah,
containers.
you have
Paper
to.
only, no batteries.
No batteries. Oh, man. Susan, I appreciate you being here as well. Hope you found this beneficial. Well, I think we've answered everybody's questions, Brad. Again, I appreciate your time, and we'll certainly be in touch. Like I said, it might be worth talking about maybe something specific next time. Have to do a little more digging, or if you have any suggestions, just let me know.
Thank you, guys. I wish y'all all the best in your business.
Awesome. Thanks, Brad. Thank you, everyone, and we'll see you on next week's webinar. And next week's topic, we will be interviewing another partner of ours. He is Mr. George Castralis. He has a imaging center here in North Florida, and we're going to be talking about decision making and healthcare imaging. So looking forward to that one. Everybody that was on this webinar, you guys will be receiving a registration link tomorrow for that event, and we hope to see you then. Brad, thanks again, and everybody have a great rest of your day. We'll see you next week.
Thank you.